What's going on, everybody? I thought I'd do a quick one here. This will be just a gloss over on astrology and how signs work together. And I'll give you a couple advanced concepts in here, but we'll explore it further at a later time. I just wanted to put this out and give you guys a little bit of a basic understanding. So, once again, the 12 is what's important. The 12 months, the 12 apostles, the 12 keys on a piano. There's 12 keys in an octave. People say there's 13. Yeah, you get back to the C, so it gives you a perfect circle back to the beginning. But for the intents here, the C to the B is the expression of each month. And those work themselves out as the full expression of a monad or the sun sign. It would be the full circle. And when you're born with 9 months in the womb. So you get 9 of the 12 months of energy of the sun and the moon and all of the stars imbued upon you. And so you're missing those other 3 months. And that gives you your strengths and your strengths and your weaknesses. And that's what's displayed in not only the physical characteristics, but the more appropriately the mental characteristics and the behavioral traits of someone throughout their life. And so if you don't understand that this is actually taking place, then you can't have any, people say, oh no, astrology is not true, but it is. It holds so much value. And people use different systems and they try to disguise it as the INT and J or whatever that, I forget the name of that system, but basically that's using the same type of constructs. It's just using different language to say the same thing. It's telling you something to do with what your strengths and weaknesses are, and even those could be, and I've discussed this with other people before about how those are all air, fire, earth, and water appropriations. And I'm not going to get into all that here, but again, let me go a little farther and show you how this works, and then I'll get into the moon and the salts really quick. Okay. Here is what we're going to call this is the carrier wave for your body, for reality, for your existence. Everything exists out here on this page, and then here, this tube from here to here is a complete carrier wave. Now, if you had all of the information for the carrier waves, your experience would be expressing this. And what happens too, and I'm going to go a little farther here, I didn't really want to, but now that I'm kind of speaking it forth, when you get out of body, you're jumping outside of that carrier wave. When you have experiences that most people don't have, you come outside of that carrier wave and you collect things. But because we're living within this reality, this construct, this matrix of our body, we can come back down into here, but there's no way of delivering that information. I mean, there's a way of delivering it, but just because you go beneath this here, this would be called spirituality out here. This would be called out of body experiences. This would be called this kind of enlightenment that people, you know, comprehend. That things that that other people can't really experience, or I mean, you'll find the others that have, and it's about explaining how these things work. So back to this here. If you had all of this again, you would be what is a monad, a complete circle. You'd be a sun symbol because you'd have all of the essences in you. So you'd have the expression of being able to radiate the 12 signs. All right, if that's all of them. So you'd have that covered. But when you're born into this reality, you're born with strengths, and you're born with. So, for instance, if this middle line is the connection line for all of the signs, if you were a very dualistic sign, say a Gemini, you'd probably have some expression like this, very big and wide and dualistic. Now, you find a Leo that knows what it knows, but it's very one-dimensional, let's say. It would know this whole thing completely, but would only dip up into this a little bit. So you find this is how you can see, oh, well, I don't get along with that person, but they're feeling an expression down here that you wouldn't normally have. And so you can find, but then you're feeling expressions for Let's see, here we go. Now we have another sign that's maybe like an Aquarius. That's something closer to the bandwidth that you experience. So now you have more in common and less not in common. So now you can start to see how all of these things link together, the types of energies that are brought from these certain specific signs and these people. And so during your life, you come across and you inject into yourself these these pieces of information. Here's you'd be, oh, I'm missing that piece of Aquarius. Oh, you're missing part of that Leo down here. And now this is, I don't want anybody to come on here as somebody that's really into astrology, be like, well, that's not right. That's right, and that's, yeah. I'm just giving you the basic construct. I don't think this is completely right. I have the blueprints, as I always let people know. Um, so now you kind of got that figured out, and the environment and your parents will also have an effect. Now, once again, if we look at it as here's the sun pushing in all of these pieces of information, all we'll call it the 12 rays, the 12, and that's putting all that information to you. So those 3 months that you weren't in the womb, you weren't collecting that information, but you do have two parents, and those two parents could be, let's say, earth signs. Now, all of a sudden, even though you were born as an Aquarius, they're throwing information into your Aquarian sign. And so you come out and maybe you start to lose a lot of your Aquarianness and you start to become very earthy. And all of a sudden, you become, because you don't know what's going on, so you become like this, even though you were born with this in you. And so the expression of you is much different depending on your environment and your parents and the energy that was put into you. But if your parents are aware of what's going on, well, then you still maintain your expression as an Aquarian, and they build in this earth sign to you. So now you become much closer to expressing a full monad. And so, but if you don't know how this works, then the expression, you have to figure it out during your lifetime. You come across these people, these experiences, these ideas, and you build them into yourself. Um, Now, going a little deeper, because I always like to get into the deeper understanding of this. Um, as I always speak at length about salts and different things. If you have a moon sign, a moon rising, as they put it, I guess, the where the moon, how much energy the moon is putting into you, you could be a Leo, but then have a Sagittarius moon, and now all of a sudden you express yourself very Sagittarius like, even though your essential self is more of the sun sign. Now, if we get into really esoteric why that might be happening, let's remove all the salts. But if we have salts in our body and the salts are connected to the moon and these metals are connected to the moon, then it's actually showing you something that's not the true you. The moon is expressing all of these energies in the body that say Aquarius, but you're a Leo, or Sagittarius and you're a Gemini. So you have this cube of salt, which I've always, this gets into a lot of deeper stuff, and I didn't want to go this far, but this is interesting stuff to consider, which I think probably has quite a bit of truth to it, that the moon is actually accessing you through salts. And so these people that have, like, oh, how are they born as a Leo, but they have such an expression as a Sagittarius? And then that moon is actually connected to the elements inside of that person's body. Now, if you start to dump all the salt out, no longer are you affected and pulled by the moon. So that goes a little bit deeper, and I'll express that fully later, and we'll get into this a little more later. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of a clue into how your birth is important, where you were born, the energy that's in you, and you can start to look at the people that you know around you and the people that are giving you problems and the people that have a problem with you, and vice versa, because of, obviously, these portals of energy that are inside of you that you express in a certain way. And again, it's always coming back to figuring out how to capture inside of yourself all of the frequencies, because that would be this wave. Now all of a sudden that wave can function inside at any one of these waves. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed. Chat soon.